How are we doing, ladies and gentlemen? The Bulls are on a nice break, a much needed break. And since it's Wednesday, you know by now that I do a series of your would you rather scenarios for the Bulls. I've been getting a lot of great feedback from you guys on wanting to continue doing this series, so I will keep it going as long as the interest is there. I'll still rotate between these and the hot takes every other Wednesday. So with all that being said, let's get into some of these takes, shall we? So what's going on, everyone? You were listening to Bulls Central here. Hope you're all doing well. Guys, I forgot to mention in my last video, I was very fortunate to be a guest on the Bow on Bulls podcast hosted by Big Dave. If you have not checked out their podcast before, definitely be sure to do so and subscribe, as Big Dave and Chris Jordan are one of a kind in their humor and analysis on the Bulls. You also know Big Dave from Locked On Bulls, so be sure to check out the podcast. I'll leave a link to it in the description. But now let's get into these. So our first would you rather comes to us from RJXN, Zach Lavine or DeMar DeRozan. Come on, man. Really? You're going to make me choose between these two guys? Why do we have to choose between either? We have both of them right now. Look, it depends. I need more context. Like, if I'm thinking of who I would rather have in the clutch, I'm probably going to take DeRozan. If I'm deciding between who I'd rather have on this current roster just for this season, like say in a horrible scenario and gun to my head and someone said you had to choose if one of player got injured, whether it would be DeMar or Zach, I'm probably going to take DeRozan in terms of who I would rather keep, that is. But anyway, long term though, in who I would want on this team for now in the future, I'm probably going to be taking Zach Lavine just because Zach is younger. He's only 26 while DeRozan is 32. DeRozan likely only has another 2 to 3 elite years in front of him, while Zach is in the peak of his prime with the potential of even getting better. It would make a lot more sense to have Zach in that scenario, but come on now, man. I don't want to have to choose between either of these guys. Next, we've got Phoenix Air Blade. Would you rather want to see Jordan's Bulls coached by Jim Boylen or this current roster coached by Phil Jackson? Oh my God, this is actually a good one. Look, I mean, if I had to choose, it would be easy. I would take Phil coaching this Bulls team, unless you're saying it's the Phil Jackson we know right now, because I don't know if he would be the same coach at his age. But if you mean the Phil Jackson of the 90s, yeah, I would take Phil then in a heartbeat. But honestly, because I despise Boylen that much, I would even prefer Phil coaching this year's Bulls team over Boylen trying to coach the Dynasty Bulls. All of that being said, I actually kind of want to see Boylen trying to coach that team because you know Michael Jordan, Pippen, Rodman, and the like would not listen to him at all and basically make him look like a clown every night to the media, which would be hilarious. But either way, no thanks on Boylen ever coaching anything Bulls ever related ever again. Next, we've got Lachlan. Would you rather be posterized by Curry or be crossed over by Shaq? That's an interesting one. Not Bulls related, but that's fine. I don't know. I think if anything, no matter who the player is, I would prefer to be crossed up on than posterized, and especially since it's Curry, who I don't think has ever posterized anyone in his career, given he barely dunks, and when he does, it's in an open drive, so I guess I would prefer to be crossed up by Shaq in this instance. Next, we've got Christy Ehlers. Would you rather see the Bulls win 60-plus wins, DeRozan win the MVP, and get knocked out in the East semis, or see the Bulls with 50-plus wins, beat out the Nets, Bucks, and see the Bulls go to the finals? That's a pretty easy one for me. I will always take seeing my team go further in the postseason regardless of the regular season success and accolades. Like if I could go back to that 2011 season in which the Bulls won 62 games and Rose won the MVP but then lost in the Eastern Conference Finals, I would take them winning the championship that season any day and just have them, win 50 games and Rose not winning the MVP. Like regular season success is nice for bragging rights and it's fun to watch your team do well in the season, but the postseason is what you really want to see your team dominate in because those memories last more so than any regular season success. Next, we've got Cam101077. Who would you rather choose which pair to win a one-possession game? The offense of Zach and DeRozan or the defense of Caruso and Lonzo? If I'm understanding the question correctly, you're saying if it's a one-possession game for the Bulls to win, do you want them to win on the defensive play from the duo of Lonzo and Caruso or an offensive play with DeRozan or Lavine? Now, for me, winning a game on a buzzer beater is always the most exciting. Like, you can't get a better possession than that. That being said, I do love a good defensive stop at the buzzer, if it's in the form of making a block on a winning shot or stealing an inbound play for the last possession. Like, those are all exciting as well. The Bulls did that in the 1997 NBA Finals against the Jazz in Game 6 on that final play where Pippen stole the ball and threw it to Kukoc. Like, that was exciting. But people also remember Steve Kerr's final shot more so than that last play. It's a good question, though, but I would take the offensive duo of Lavine and DeRozan to win a one-possession game. Next, we've got Patches O'Houlihan. Would you rather have Franz Wagner and Wendell Carter Jr. or Nikola Vucevic? So basically, would I rather keep the Vuce trade or not? I mean, look, as much as Vuce hasn't been as much as what we would have liked to have seen from him based on what we saw last year, although he has been playing considerably better than he did to start the season anyway, you still cannot underestimate his value in the paint with his ability to rebound, post up, and spread the floor. And I've said it multiple times, his passing for being a big man is so underrated. Not only that, but his defense has been the best that it's been in his entire career. So I know the scoring numbers aren't there like they used to be or what we're used to seeing from Vuce, but he's contributing in other ways on the court that have enabled this team to be so successful. And we knew his scoring could dip playing alongside Lavine and DeRozan. Like, this isn't the Magic team where he was the primary scoring option. Yes, Wendell and Wagner have looked very nice, especially for Wagner being a rookie, and there is talent and potential there. So when you view this from the sense of, well, if the Bulls roster had Lavine, Lonzo, DeRozan, and Wendell and Wagner instead of Vucevic, first of all, I still don't think the team would be as good, but you likely wouldn't have even been able to sign DeRozan and Ball had the Bulls not made that trade for Vucevic already. Like, that's why you bring in an all-star player, so that you make your team more attractive as a free agency destination. I would say there is zero chance that DeMar would have joined the Bulls if we had Wendell and Wagner instead of Vucevic. Lonzo, maybe I think he still would have joined just because those rumors were already happening and he wanted out of New Orleans anywhere. But with no Vucevic, you're not getting DeRozan. And without DeRozan, you're nowhere near sitting number one in the East right now. Next, we've got Dontavius Stapleton. Would you rather MJ, Scotty, and the gang run it back and try to dance one more time in 99 for ring number 7, or have D Rose never get hurt and see what happens with the Bulls team in the 2010s? Yeah, for me, most certainly I would rather Rose have never gotten hurt, because it wasn't just to see what this Bulls team could have done or what would have become of that whole organization. We were robbed of seeing what Rose could have become in terms of his potential on the all-time great list. Like, when you win the MVP at the age of 22, the youngest to ever do it, having not even hit your prime yet, and you're already an MVP with your whole career in front of you, for most of your accomplishments and accolades still yet to happen, like, who knows if Rose could have eventually become an all-time great among the legends we now know today. That's what upsets me even more about his injuries, is not just the Bulls and how many titles they could have potentially won had he not gotten hurt. It's more so the legacy of Rose that we never got to see fulfilled. And as much as I would have loved to see the 90s Bulls win one last title in 1999, because they likely could have, we already got 6 titles from them. I would much prefer to see what could have happened in a Rose era Bulls where he ended up not getting injured, and I do think that they would have won championships as a result. Next, we've got Kane Horridge. Would you rather have prime Ben Wallace or prime Dennis Rodman on this current roster? For me, it's pretty easy. I know Ben Wallace was a beast in his prime, but come on now. How are you not going to take the worm and his defensive intensity, hustle, and ability to get into players' heads? Like, as much as we talk about Jordan and Pippen, it's unlikely the Bulls would have won all 3 of those titles in the late 90s without Rodman. Rodman would fit perfectly on this roster with what the Bulls need right now, with a tenacious rebounder and a defender in the front court. Next, we've got Kyle. Would you rather have Lonzo Ball or prime Kirk Hinrich at the point guard, 1 season only, and to contend for a championship? Ooh, man, this is a tough one as well. I mean, I assume we're basing it off of the current roster, because if we're contending for a title, you also have to factor in other pieces around them. And I know this might be a little more recency bias, and I love Hinrich. I was one of my favorite players in those days, but I would still prefer Lonzo just because his passing ability and athleticism is ahead of Hinrich. Lonzo has impeccable court vision. Lonzo, in my opinion, is also a better defender, even though I acknowledge Hinrich was a solid defender as well. I believe he was actually named named second team all defense in one season in his career, which Lonzo hasn't yet to be named to an all defensive team, but I believe that he will be this season. So in short, I would rather have Lonzo over Captain Kirk. Next, we've got Jiggy Norris. Would you rather clap the Celtics or the Knicks in the playoffs? Wow, this is such a hard one because I really can't stand either team and their annoying fan bases. I mean, I really started hating the Celtics ever since the 2009 playoff series with the Bulls that went to 7 games, but my dislike for the Knicks has been going for much longer than that, ever since the 90s, really ever since I've been following basketball. I guess if I had to choose, I would rather beat the Knicks in the playoffs because it would just be that much more satisfying to see the Knicks fall yet again in the playoffs to the Bulls. Not only that, but it would renew this rivalry, which as much as Bulls fans can't stand the Knicks and vice versa, basketball isn't the same when that rivalry just simply is not there. Next, we've got Cam Shan. If we are going to trade for a power forward, would you rather it be for Coby or for Ayo? Wow. I mean, if you had asked me this a couple weeks ago, the obvious answer would have been trading Coby for a power forward. But now with the way Coby has been playing lately and being a huge catalyst for the Bulls on offense, especially picking up Lolo while Lonzo is out, that's tough. I probably would still trade Coby over Ayo for a power forward if I had to choose, simply because Coby is going to fetch you more in a trade because he's young, is a good player that can get you between 15 to 20 points per game in a starting type role, and because Ayo is a rookie who is still developing, but at the same time has a lot of potential and fits the Bulls mold and what they're trying to do. So yeah, I mean, I would rather trade Coby, but that is a tough one though, especially with the way Coby's been playing recently. But again, that's really why it would actually make more sense to trade Coby, because you're going to get solid value for him in return than what you would otherwise get in trading Ayo. I'm going to end it there though for this edition of Your Bulls Would You Rather. Next week, I'll feature Your Bulls hot takes, so be on the lookout for that. Feel free to leave your hot takes below in the comments. I'll have a video out tomorrow for you guys as well, and then the Bulls are back at it on Friday against the Wizards. Until then though, appreciate you guys leaving your takes, and as always, be sure to subscribe if you're a Bulls fan, as I do post daily Bulls content. Thanks again for tuning in, guys, and I will catch you in the next one.